In this video, I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom when it comes to setting up your perfect fat loss plan if you're over 30. Boom, what is happening, team? Welcome into the Fit After 30 show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. My name is Sharif Lawson if you're new to me and my channel, guiding men and women over 30 to an absolutely incredible physique transformation via training, nutrition, and lifestyle optimization without sacrificing work, family, or indeed social life. If you like the sound of that and you like the previous content, do consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell up top to make sure you're not missing any content. Now, this video is going to be one in which you bookmark, one in which you save, one in which you probably come back to time and time again, because the principles in this video are going to give you the keys to the kingdom, as I say, to literally map out your exact fat loss plan from a nutritional perspective as it comes to you and where you're at right now, so you can be leaner, happier, healthier, and fitter, and ultimately have a better body composition, which is now going to be key. I think first and foremost, it's a case of, well, Sharif, why are you even making this video? And the reason why I'm making this video is full transparency, is because I'm a little bit pissed off at the fact that it's 2023 and I'm seeing so much bullshit on social media about you can't eat bread, you can't eat pasta, you can't eat fruit is bad for you. Goodness me. You can only eat meat, don't eat any meat, fast for 2 hours, fast for 18 hours. And honestly, I just tried to put myself in the shoes of someone who was trying to figure this all out, because let's be honest, we live in the information era, the information age right now, which is incredible, but sometimes we can get this kind of like, you know, analysis paralysis, because he's saying this and she's saying that, and it can feel very contradictory. And actually, what can sometimes happen is you look at a certain fitness influencer, or you look at someone on social media who you look up to, and they're saying some things and they're getting some good results. You're like, well, what they're saying must clearly be true. But on the other hand, you're following some other fitness influencer and they're saying the complete opposite thing, but yet they're getting good results. You're like, well, hold on. Is it low carb? Is it high carb? Is it keto? Is it paleo? Is it veganism? Is it, you know, and it can just be very, very overwhelming and confusing. Whereas actually, I'm going to give you the non-sexy, but very direct, needle moving behaviors and activities and thought processes you're going to need to set up your own nutrition plan moving forwards. And so that ultimately you can get away from the noise, the misinformation, the fluff and the nonsense. And like I say, continue to come back to this video to iterate and make sure that you've got your perfect plan laid out, especially because you're over 30 right now. You haven't got time for fads. You haven't got time for bullshit. You need speed, you need accuracy, and you need to know what to do. And that's exactly what I'm going to arm you in this video. No gatekeeping whatsoever. Some of the information in this video, I'm actually sure that other coaches are going to be pissed off at me for giving away for free. But the reality is, the reason I'm still going to have a job is because people struggle with the implementation. People struggle with the accountability. People struggle with the support and the actual implementation of nailing their plan. But the fact of the matter is, if you did this on your own and continue to do so, hey, you don't need me, you don't need a coach, you don't need a program, anything like that, because I'm going to give you exactly what you need to set up your perfect plan. So without further ado, let's crack on. Now, I don't care who you are or what you believe or don't believe. The unrefutable truth is the fact that when it comes to your body and when it comes to losing body fat, calories are king. They're always going to be king. And you can look at that and be like, oh, that's such outdated science and research, Sharif. And don't you know that all you have to do is cut out carbohydrates? Or don't you know that all you have to do is fast from, 8 o'clock to 12? Or don't you know that all you have to do is cut out X, Y, and Z? And the reason why any diet works, guys, is because it is removing either a food group or some food sources, and essentially is putting you in a calorie deficit. Now, I don't want to bore you about calorie deficits because you've probably heard that term being chucked about on social media. But the fact of the matter is, if we are not in an energy deficit, we are not going to lose body fat. It's as simple as that. What you choose to believe and what you choose to think is right or wrong is completely up to you. But I'm here to tell you that the only reason why anyone in the history of the world loses body fat is because they are in a calorie deficit, whether they know it or not. And on the flip side to that, you could eat the most clean, healthy, best food sources in the world. Well, guess what? If you're not in a calorie deficit, you ain't gonna lose weight. There are no magic foods, there are just magic quantities. All right. So first and foremost, now that we've got calories established, because like I say, nothing else matters until we get that right. The first thing that we are going to do is make sure that we establish a baseline and we establish how many calories you need to eat roughly per day based on your current stats, facts, and figures in order to maintain your current weight, there or thereabouts. And the reality is, calorie calculators are the best guess. They're just a starting point. There's nothing magic to them. Stop traipsing the internet trying to find the most accurate one, because it's not about the starting point. It's about what you do with that information now moving forward. And shock horror, I actually have a free calorie calculator which you can use. If you go over to 23leanbysl.com/calculator, it's going to kick out your energy needs. Now, once you've plugged in things like height, weight, age, your activity level, most people are fairly sedentary if you're anything like me and you're sitting in a chair most of the time. And what you're going to do is get that number and take away roughly 500 from that. So for an example, if it kicks out that your estimated TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, is roughly 2,500 calories, you're basically going to consume 2,000 calories, right? So you're going to take away 500 and you're left with 2,000. Very, very simple. Honestly, I could stop the video there. See you later. Bye. Eat less, move more. However, there's obviously a little bit more to that, but it has to start with calories, and that is the best way to do so. In fact, I'm going to chuck a link below. Go ahead and just jump over to that. That is the first thing that you must get right before anything else. Okay, cool. So we've now worked out how many calories your body needs to maintain its current weight, and therefore what we need to do to be in a deficit by taking away roughly 500 calories, and off you go. Well, how do I know what foods to eat? And actually, if we now think, what about protein? What about carbohydrates? There's these people talking about macros. What are macros? So the first level, like I say, calories. Then we're going to get into macronutrients, what they are and what they mean and how they're impactful for you. But I just want to say that if you were to just stop at the calorie level, right, that is where most programs such as your Weight Watchers, your Slimming Worlds, your Herbalife, etc., they just stop the conversation there. Calories in, calories out, off you go, do it. That's great. However, different macronutrients, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, different macros, they make you feel differently. And if we start to consider that, okay, your ability to be consistent is going to be based on, how long can you do this for, right? Because the biggest killer of any diet is, either boredom or hunger. So if you're hungry because you're eating the wrong foods, and if you're bored, even if you're in this calorie deficit, it's not going to work, okay? So we're going to optimize your macronutrients. So very brief science lesson. It's going to take like 2 seconds, but it's very important you understand that we've got these calories, right? That the energy in which we now eat. And we've also got the things which compromise those calories, like what make up calories. And essentially we've got 3 things. We've got proteins, we've got carbohydrates, and we've got fats, all right? We can talk about fiber, we can talk about alcohol, but for right now, let's just make the conversation very, very simple, all right? For proteins, they yield 4 calories per every gram. For carbohydrates, they yield 4 calories per every gram. And for fats, they actually yield 9 calories for every gram, making it the most calorie dense macronutrient. Now, we're not going to worry for this conversation right now about carbohydrates and fats, but we are going to talk about protein. I'm not going to bore you about why protein is so impactful and important, but the main thing that you need to realize is that you actually want to lose body fat. You don't want to lose weight for the sake of weight. And so if we don't pay attention to protein at the very least, what tends to happen is your body, yes, might lose weight if you're in a deficit, but it will chew up your muscle tissue. You will start to catabolize your own tissue, leading to like a smaller, fatter version of your original self. Have you seen that person that didn't really diet correctly, even though they lost a lot of weight, and they kind of don't look that impressive at the end? It's probably because they just absolutely hemorrhaged a lot of their lean tissue, which is exactly what we're going to avoid. And we do that by 2 things. Number 1, having adequate protein intake. And number 2, making sure that we're actually providing an adaptive stimulus to the body, letting it know that, hey, I'm using this muscle tissue. Please don't catabolize it. Let's use fat when it comes to the deficit, which is exactly what you want. Okay. But we're not going to talk about training for now. So all you need to know is calories and then protein. So, okay, cool, Sharif, how much protein should I have? Now I'm going to make this very simple for you. And again, there's different recommendations and all the rest of it. But if you're a guy watching this, I would like for you to try and aim anywhere from 130 to 160 grams of protein every day. And I can bet that's more than you're taking in right now. If you're a lady, anywhere from roughly 110 to 130, 140 grams of protein per day is probably going to be sufficient based on your lean body mass. So very, very simple. Of course, we can get more specific about it and we can get your body weight and times it by what have you. But if you're just going up along the recommendations which I've just described, you're probably going to be getting enough protein to make sure that you're protecting all that muscle tissue, and therefore you're just burning body fat. Now you might be like, okay, cool, Sharif, but you kind of mentioned carbohydrates and fats. Research has conclusively shown that the ratios of carbohydrates to fats do not matter so much when it comes to fat loss, as long as your calories are set and your protein is also set up right. That therefore means if you prefer things like potatoes, pasta, bread, oats, fruits, etc., your carbohydrates are naturally going to be a little bit higher, and therefore your fats are going to have to be a little bit lower. If on the flip side, you actually prefer more things like nuts and seeds and avocados and olives and fattier cuts of meat and whole eggs and salmon, etc., then your fats might be a little bit higher and your carbs might be lower. Doesn't matter. Nail your protein, nail your calories, and we're going to be good to go. Cool. So hopefully you're still with me. And right now you might be thinking, all right, so I've got my calories, I've got my protein. What actual foods do we eat? Because guess what? We don't eat calories and macronutrients. We actually eat food. Now, past the scope of this conversation, we're going to basically be thinking about, again, what is the biggest killer of most diets? It's going to be hunger. So if we can protect against hunger by using certain foods which are going to be low in calorie but high in food volume, helping you feel fuller for longer, then you're going to have a far better shot at being consistent. And we all know that it takes consistency to get those results. I have given you a fantastic training which is normally reserved for our 23 Lean private coaching clients and part of our members lab, literally called Eat This and Not That. And it's the exact foods in which I recommend, and indeed why, in a fat loss phase, that are going to keep you full, satiated, but are going to have a low caloric load for a high volume of food. All you have to do is click the link. It's going to send you to a page, plug in your details, and you can just watch that for free. It is an absolute game-changing training, if I may say so myself. And there we have it. It doesn't get more complicated than that. Know your calories, know your protein, know your food sources in terms of what you're actually eating, and you're going to be good to go. Now, I can already hear some people being like, that's all well and good, Sharif, but, and listen, I've been in this game for my entire life, okay? So I'm used to the common objections and bits and pieces. So the first main objection that I get with the over 30s crowd is, that's all well and good, Sharif, but I eat family meals late at night and I don't have control over what I eat. Okay, cool. So here's the answer to that, is that you can still be in control of breakfast, you can still be in control of lunches, you can still be in control of your snacks. What you want to do is create a buffer so that you're going into that last meal with a decent amount of food left, knowing that you're not going to be accurate, but you are going to be consistent. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you had a 2,000 calorie goal. You could eat something like all the way up to, say 1,200 throughout the day in terms of breakfasts and lunches and snacks. You therefore know that you've got an 800 calorie buffer for dinner, which is a good amount of calories where you can sit down, have a plate of whatever the family is eating together, and you know that you're roughly going to be exactly where you need to be, okay? It is just an excuse that, well, I can't be accurate, so I'm just going to eat whatever anyway. That is just an excuse for you to not be consistent, because this whole thing is about consistency over perfection. And what about the other thing? Well, Sharif, that's all well and good, but I do a lot of drinking, I do a lot of socializing, I do a lot of meals out. The reality is everyone is so calorie conscious right now that oftentimes on the menus, you're going to have the ability to figure out like what's going to fit in your caloric needs or not. And guess what? Even if you're not, it's not like your body switches off after 24 hours or your metabolic rate does or anything like that. So what you can actually do is rob Peter to pay Paul and have a little think about your calories over the course of a 7-day period rather than a 24-hour one. That basically means that what you can do is Monday through to Thursday, cut down a little bit in terms of your caloric goals. And then when it comes to the weekend, you can actually have a little bit more. And what that's going to do is make sure that over the course of a 7-day period, you're exactly where you need to be. But on the weekends, you are being more social, you are being more flexible, and you're partitioning more food towards the very events in which you're probably going to be eating a little bit more anyway, but now you're staying true to your goals. Honestly, this method of calorie banking is one of the ways in which our 23 Lean private coaching clients literally baffle their friends and their family, because they're going out, they're drinking the gins and they're having the nice foods and they're getting leaner, more muscular, stronger, and looking better in their clothes every single week. And with a little bit of planning, you really can have your cake and eat it. And then lastly, cool, Sharif, that's all well and good, but I don't want to track my food. Okay, this is fine. And just know that people got in fantastic shape before tracking apps, before MyFitnessPal, before the smartphone, all right? All I would say is that it quite literally takes 2 seconds to do so, especially now you've got technology like the barcode scanners and all the rest of it. But the reality is there are so many ways to put yourself in a deficit, which I can talk to you about in another video, that doesn't involve tracking. But make no mistake about it, tracking is the easiest and most predictable and the most seamless way of getting the job done. If you find that's too OCD, you don't like numbers, and it's just not going to work out for you, all I would ask is for you to actually just try, because actually it's probably easier than you think. And we typically eat the same meals on rotation over and over again. So once you've gone through the ball ache of getting it right for the first week or so, then it just becomes seamless. All right. But again, if you are not going to track because that's not the method that's right for you, there's 101 different ways of put you in that deficit. Like I say, I'll cover that in another video, but we cannot violate the laws of thermodynamics, calories in, calories out, and making sure that you are actually in a deficit. We're just going to do so via different means. So just to wrap this all up, number one, calories are king. I don't care who you are, what you believe. If you're not in a calorie deficit, you absolutely not lose weight. There are no magic foods. There are just magic quantities which are going to get you there. Number two is we're going to make sure that your protein intake is adequate to protect against any lean muscle loss and to make sure that you're losing body fat and not actual lean tissue. Don't worry too much about carbohydrates and fats. Number three, you're going to go ahead and download the Eat This Not That training, which is going to guide you through what food specifically to eat so that you can be more consistent and get better results. And then lastly, we've just gone through some of the common objections I get when it comes to this sort of setup, and indeed what you can do about them differently. Team, I really hope this video helped. Like I say, come back to this whenever you're stuck and don't really understand what to do. And, shoot me a message on Instagram at Sharif Lawton if you want to go back and forth with this. But I really hope that you found it helpful. And I'll see you in the next one in a bit.